me, Nesser! Hey, it's me, Nesser. Welcome back to another episode of NESSERPOD. This week I have Leon Diop from Black and Irish. Welcome to my home.
Thank you so much for having me on.
No problem. So we're meant to have more people on, but life happens. But the whole point of this episode is basically to shine a light on all the great stuff that Black and Irish have been doing for the last nearly
2 years now.
24 months, if not more, at this stage. And also kind of explaining what Black and Irish is in depth, what the goal is for Black and Irish and where they stand in the community. But before we get into all of that, I want to know more about you. I just found out that you're Senegalese and Irish, which is pretty sick. I don't think I've met any other Senegalese people.
There's Abby Coulibaly as well.
Oh, is she?
Yeah. So, I've actually only met a couple of others. I haven't met too many other Senegalese people.
I think you probably would go to more francophone countries.
Absolutely. Yeah, I think there's a lot of Senegalese in France, and then there's a lot of Senegalese in Spain as well. That's where my parents met. So,
oh, lovely. So your parents met in Spain, and were you born in Ireland or were you born in Spain?
I was born in Ireland, yeah.
So you've always just kind of lived here?
Yeah, I've lived here, yeah. I haven't been to Senegal.
Yeah, do you know what's smartest? Like, I'm the same. I haven't been to Nigeria either, but like, to be fair, Nigeria's a bit of a mad place still, but like, I'd love to visit home. But even, I didn't even want to dive so deep into it, but just like the thought of home itself, because like, obviously, like, you're a mixed race person, but would you see more people would just label you as Black initially, or would you always be mixed race, or would people just say that you're Irish or one or the other?
I think a lot more people would see me as mixed race now. I don't think the concept of mixed race is really understood while I was growing up. It was just like, you're Black, that's it. And even that's the way I kind of saw myself as well. But now a lot more people recognise that you can have that kind of like dual identity where you like see yourself as Irish and Senegalese.
And like, even talking about like dual identity, like a lot of the old episodes, like if you've ever watched those or anybody who has watched, the topic of identity always comes up on my episodes, even when I try not to do it, but it's just something that's rooted in being Irish and non-Irish at the same time, right? Like, how has that changed for you? Like, because I'm sure your identity as what it is now was not what it was when you were younger.
Definitely not. No, I really struggled with it. Growing up, like, I really struggled seeing myself fitting in with other groups. Regardless of whether I was hanging around with Black people or white people, I always saw myself as othered. And I struggled with that right up to my early 20s, which is like 7 years now. Like that was a constant tug of war, and it really took myself sitting down with myself and like just going through it and saying, okay, well, it's all right for me to identify as Irish and as Senegalese. Like, why do I have to categorize myself into this like just one box? So that's I really had to like cut the rope on that game of tug of war between those two identities and just say, all right, well, I for a long time I really was hard on myself about it. I identify it as half caste, which now looking at that word and understanding that terminology, is not good, because obviously it's half pure is what it boils down to.
Sorry, will you go a bit deeper into that? Because I think people still use the word, and I literally a couple minutes ago we were talking about half caste podcast changing it to HC podcast. Obviously, it's probably one of those words that became such a normalized slur. And I think now people are understanding what it means, but for people who don't know what it means, like, would you explain a little bit?
Yeah, sure. So caste comes from the Latin for castus, which means pure. Okay. So when you're saying half caste, you're saying half pure. Half pure, like saying something is half pure means that it has impurities in it. You know what I mean? Which is a negative. It's a negative connotation. So that's what.
Sorry, go ahead.
That's the only reason I moved away from using that word when I began to understand what it meant.
Yeah, and then even in that struggle, right? It's something in there is impure to make it a mix of impure, like an impure mix, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
Like, obviously in society, what we're seen as impure is the black side of things, as opposed to the white side. So when you were picking an identity or choosing to be both, like, obviously it's hard enough that in the one sense, you as a whole is being seen as something that's impure, but even when you identify as black, it's still the same, if not worse than. How did that make you feel? Or did you ever think of that when you were trying to choose your identities?
Yeah, for a period of time, I definitely tried to escape that kind of black side of myself. You know, like, I was disconnected from my African heritage from a very young age, so I wasn't able to associate with it. I wasn't able to, you know, identify with it as easily. So I leaned a lot more into that white side of my heritage, and, like, you know, not understanding my African heritage, not studying it, not learning about it. You know, just kind of like disconnecting from it, and and that led to a lot of problems for me, because you're, like, literally, you know, abandoning yourself, half of yourself or whatever. I don't mean to be getting this deep, like this.
Don't worry, everybody does. That's
right, that's
what NESSERPOD is. Don't worry. I told you it's not vibes. Like,
that's good.
There's no vibes.
So, you know, it was important for me to reconnect with that, and that, you know, I've over the last few years I've really been able to, you know, because when you let that kind of fester in the background, when you, like, disconnect from it, it will catch up with you eventually, and that, you know, that ultimately did lead to a lot of the identity challenges that I had. Reconnecting with it has really helped me, and has helped me to become a lot more, like, confident in myself, and a lot more assured of myself and my identity. And, you know, I think if anyone is, you know, listening to this, who is mixed race, who is going through that same thing, you know, rather than trying to run away from it, step into it, and step into not knowing about your heritage, and learn about it. You know, I learned some fascinating things about Senegal, and about Senegal's history, and, you know, how we got our independence before Nigeria, which is
Nigeria is not even free now, bro. We're in bondage.
You know, we're the founders of jollof rice as well. Now, I you know, I will concede to the fact that we don't make
there was no war going on. Nobody asked you about your job, man.
I know.
Don't worry, they're trying to come for us.
I'm bringing Senegal back into this discussion, you know, between Nigeria and Ghana, who's the best jollof rice.
I'll allow you, just because you, man, won the AFCON.
I'll
allow it, and I support Liverpool, so man is my guy, but other than that, behave yourself, innit? Like, but,
okay.
But it's really interesting for you to say that, and I think I only have one. I have a couple of mixed race friends, but for me, they've always been polarized, like, and they've chosen that polarization themselves. Or, to be fair, I don't think they've chosen it. Do you know, a lot of times when you're growing up, you think that you're making decisions, but it's because of the situation that you're in. You're not actually in charge. Like I personally believe freedom is, like, an illusion anyway. Do you know what I mean? Okay. But, you know, when you're younger and you engage in antisocial behavior, and most of the time you're like, I'm doing what I want because I want to do it, but realistically you've following the crowd. Do you know what I mean? You don't know who you are. Do you know what I mean? But to see someone speak about it in that sense and in the way that you're speaking about it is very interesting, because I think because of Black and Irish, I've understood a bit more of the mixed race kind of struggle, because I feel like obviously Black people have our own things, and that's what we're focused on, because that's our own thing. But there is a side of that where I feel like mixed race people do feel left out in that sense, because you're neither or in the sense, but at the same time I don't think society has fully given you your own place. Do you know what I mean? So I think it's very interesting that you say it like that, and I think it's very important that you say it like that, like, because you are both and neither at the same time. Do you know what I mean?
That is absolutely true. Being neither and both is the kind of the paradox that it is, you know. So, and like, I definitely, like, I understand that, you know, a lot of the Black community at times can be very, like, you know, why would you know mixed race people be complaining or be saying that they have issues? Like, we go through a lot more issues, and I absolutely, you know, understand the fact that, like, colorism is a massive thing, and you know, we really need to work on that in our society. Like, I've been afforded a lot of a lot more privileges than some of, you know, my black counterparts because I'm mixed race.
Yeah.
You know, so there is two sides of that coin. But at the same time, it has led to then, you know, community being fractured in that, like, I've been wanting to really be a part of that community and engage with it and understand that. And at times I have been, you know, pushed away from it, which, you know, has led me to obviously have a negative feeling.
Yeah.
You know, so there is two sides of it, but I definitely think that, like, we just need to sit down with each other and talk about it to be able to understand one another.
Okay. So with all that identity, conversation, thoughts, monologues from yourself, like, how has that shaped kind of, obviously now you're in Black and Irish, but I'm sure you were doing things before that, right? Or is this your first kind of, where did the passion come from to be part of something like Black and Irish?
I think it was building for a number of years. I went through a number of instances where I faced anti-black racism or I was subjected to different uncomfortable scenarios because of the colour of my skin. I said that it's time for that to change. So a couple of instances being, you know, denied from student housing because the house wasn't suitable for people of African origin.
Wait, 1 second. Wait.
Yeah.
Wait, that was like, wait.
Yeah, I can go into that, yeah.
Oh my god, sorry, I'm shocked. I'm actually shocked.
Yeah, so myself and my friend were going to rent houses, or going to trying to rent a house in college, and went to this house to view it. The agent was very skeptical as soon as we walked into the house, and at the end of showing us the house, told us that the house was not suitable for people of African origin, and we were kind of like, what? Like, it was so bizarre. Now you think that, like, maybe people should have attacked him, or maybe people should have, like, I don't know, cursed him out, or like gave him a sit down and spoken to him. But this is like 2015, 2016. Like, I gone through racial experiences that were very overt, very like, you know, very explicit forms of you're the N-word, or, you know what I mean, physically attacked, but never like denied from a service, you know what I mean, like, or housing or whatever. I had another instance which actually made it to the courts when I was
actually need to close my mouth, sorry, go, like,
yeah.
I'm still, carry on.
Yeah, so another instance then was I was travelling home with my brother on the Lewis, and basically Lewis security were kicking a group of black lads off the Lewis, and they came straight over to me and my brother then, didn't check anyone else, and were like, you know, show us your tickets, and these weren't the inspectors, these were just the security. So I was like, I seen what they were doing, they were kicking all the lads off, came over to us. I told them that what they were doing was wrong, and then I was told, like, I basically said, like, look, what you're doing is racially profiling us here. And he told me that he didn't like my attitude and was like, get off. And I was like, well, I have a ticket, like, you can't, like, you can't kick someone off
for an attitude.
Do you know what I mean? So I ended up taking that to court, and I lost in the circuit court, appealed it. So the circuit court was actually only, like, the sitting was about, I'm gonna say, an hour and 15 minutes. Like, it wasn't fully hard out.
Just, were you racially profiled? As a all-white court, we don't think you were cool.
No, I was told, like, listen, so then I appealed it to the High Court and I won there. And you know, that sitting was, that I feel like that judge was a lot more receptive, willing to hear what we were you know, trying to put across. Basically the security lied and said that as soon as they came onto Lewis, I started shouting at them, saying that they were racist, and that's why they approached us. And that it was found in the courts, and like the judge told in his you know, findings that they lied, you know, and that myself and my brother were vindicated on that. So, you know, all of those moments just added up to, you know, me feeling very frustrated. I then did some work on it while I was in student union in Maynooth. I noticed that, like, students' unions are very white, you know what I mean? Like, they're not really receptive to other communities, you know. So And that goes right the way through, from student unions to like academic councils, to like clubs and societies. So it's like, okay, how can we change this? Let's bring in an initiative to try and get more, you know, ethnic minorities involved in student unions, like both from the National Student Union and local student unions. So I brought like basically a motion to National Congress, which is where all the student unions meet, and got the National Student Union to roll out a program for like training basically for people to get involved in student unions who come from ethnic minority backgrounds. So those would be I suppose some of my earlier works in trying to get you know a bit more justice.
A little sliver of it.
Yeah, and then the incident with George Floyd happened. And I was absolutely distraught. I was very upset. I was still living in Maynooth at the time. I remember for days afterwards just pacing up and down in my backyard and just being like, what can I do? Because I wanted to do something. Like I remember this is gonna sound real like, you know, cheesy or whatever, but like I wrote a letter out to George Floyd's parents and was like, you know, wanted to send condolences and stuff like that, but I knew to myself that wasn't enough. You know, like I wanted to do something in Ireland essentially. So like,
even before you go on, it's very interesting how that one, because so many people have sat here, even when we're not talking about like social justice and things, just talking about people's lives, people's careers, the phrase "and then George Floyd's death," or after George Floyd's death, or whatever his name, and then something, and it seems like an important turning point in the life of everyone, but specifically Black people.
Definitely.
Like, and mixed race people as well, like the people who can identify with that struggle. Like, to this day, I still don't understand it, and I don't get it, because we've seen a lot of people die before. Do you know what I mean? We've seen it's, unfortunately, that wasn't a new thing that's happened in America.
No, of course.
But for some reason, obviously lockdown had a lot to do with it, the fact that it was all on film, but the fact that it was like overtly like just unfair. That not being Black, you could see that this is wrong, because sometimes we have to explain injustices to non-Black people. But for some reason, this was such a blatant wrong that very little people could deny that this is wrong. You know what I mean?
No, and I fully agree with you. It had happened plenty of times before, but there were definitely more factors I think that influenced this time, in terms of it not being necessarily a shooting, it being like a knee on your neck, and that, you know, people could think about that happening to them and be like, oh my God, that's a horrible you know thing to happen. The pandemic absolutely you know, it like inflamed things. You know, it was you know, everyone cooped up indoors, you know, people
already vexed now.
We were. I think there was an explosion waiting to happen, and that was it was a match on gasoline. So you know, but a lot of what was happening was focused on the United States and focusing on anti-Black racism there, and you know, focusing on, you know, police brutality, violence against Black people, and we can get into that in a moment. But that wasn't as prevalent in Ireland as you know, as it was in the United States. So when people were campaigning and stuff like that, it was focused on the US. So we needed to do something here, you know, because the racism that a lot of people experience here is slightly different. Some of it is the same, but some of it is different in terms of like that, you know, it's more undercurrent in Ireland.
Microaggressions,
more microaggressions.
Progressing and certain things, not being able to live somewhere.
Exactly, biases, that type of stuff. So, you know, we really needed to get that message out there, and that's like I sat down with a couple of friends and was like, here's my idea, I want to get this up and running, you want to help me out? And they were like, yeah, cool. So it started off as an Instagram account, as an Instagram page. So that's where it started, platforming people's stories. You know, we wanted to share people's authentic experiences. We didn't want to, you know, curtail it in any way. So like whatever people sent us was posted. Now obviously we would fix it, maybe spelling mistakes or if it was too long, we would say you need to shorten it down, but we wouldn't tell anyone you're not allowed to say this happened or anything like that. That I think with what had just happened, it got a massive response, and it was picked up by politicians, it was picked up by celebrities, it was picked up by just obviously then, your run of the mill everyday Joe So, you know what I mean, who was like, oh, actually I didn't understand. So now I want to understand. So that's how Black and Irish started essentially.
I think that's really interesting because I remember I sent in my one, right, and then there's a bunch of people from Waterford that I haven't talked to in years that were commenting on mine, and I was like, how did you even find this page? Like why are you here? And I think that was where it was important to kind of showcase, like, okay, this is a great. Unfortunately, it's capitalizing on the situation, but in a positive way. In that sense, it's like using the fact that everybody's attention is on racial injustice. Let's show them how it's working here. Do you know what I mean? I think it was very important to do that because anytime you have that conversation of racial discrimination in Ireland, a lot of the times you're told that it's not that bad.
Oh yeah.
Or it doesn't exist.
People's eyes will glaze over.
Do you know what I mean?
Care.
And I think that was the way you're saying, like, the authenticity of people telling their story was important, because for me, it was people who live with me next door, down the road every day, that are like, we never knew that you went through this in the same place that we live, that we think is, because I'm not gonna lie, I think I live in one of the best places in Ireland. Like, so I mean, Waterford was actually voted the best place to live in Ireland. Obviously not by black people, but like growing up in Tramore to me was not the worst of experiences. So I would understand when those type of people are saying, I don't understand where you're seeing racism. To them, they would be quite open and quite like accepting, but there's people who live in other parts of, like, for example, Dublin, that experience something completely different. So I think it was very important to show the range of injustices that people go. When I was seeing somebody else's, I was like, I can't believe that. And I even went through that where someone from Waterford put in a story, and I was just like, how did you experience this in the same place that I lived? Do you know what I mean? I think that's important, obviously, for white people to see our struggles, but for us to see our struggles as well, because unfortunately there's trauma Olympics that's happening in every race, every culture, every religion, everything right now. There's trauma Olympics happening, and it's not to say that mine is worse than yours or whatever, but it's to put into perspective what people are going through and to understand that. Because for someone who had a better experience like myself, to go around and to go with white people, for example, and be like, yeah, racism isn't that bad, sure, I'm black and I've been living in Tramore for ages and nothing's ever happened to me or whatever, but someone literally who lives in the same place has a completely different experience. I'm making it worse for them because I'm invalidating their experience. Essentially that's racial gaslighting, in the sense it's like, did you really go through that? Do you know what I mean? And it's sometimes we think it's only non-black people that do it, but we do it ourselves when we make our experiences the only thing that's there. Do you know what I mean?
Absolutely.
So you started the Instagram page, it blew up, and how did that go from an Instagram page into it's an organization now, if anything, right?
Well, what we were seeing was issues that were really troubling, and that we didn't see a whole lot of work being done on. So I said it's not much as we kind of getting these stories up. We need to work on this type of stuff. We need to be challenging these things that are happening. And we decided to organize around ourselves, and to start putting in plans in place to start challenging these issues. So we identified 6 different areas that that we feel need a lot of work in. Now, realistically, there's probably 1,000 areas that could be worked on. You could delve in each of these areas, could be kind of delved into further and said, okay, well, what about this part of this sector? But we picked these 6 areas and said, okay, well, we're going to run projects on each area. And
what were the 6?
So it's education, business, politics, community, media, and entertainment. Okay. So across each of those 6 areas, we see either biases and being really prevalent, like in terms of schools, kids not being taught about Black history, having a very kind of narrow view of what it was like for a Black person throughout the ages, when it's like it should be taken on a more global scale. The curriculum being very outdated and not robust enough to teach children to live in an inclusive manner.
Yeah.
And then also teachers as well. Like teachers are some of the most pivotal people in our lives, and you know, if your teacher has a bias, your life is going to be very difficult. So
yeah, a lot of ours were.
yeah, so it's important that you know, teachers are, one, challenged on their own biases, and two, are educated to deal with racism when it arises in their class.
And you ran that campaign in February. With Lush. How did that go?
It went really well. Yeah, we got a lot of schools signed up. We had a number of schools who were submitted more than once. We had one school that was submitted 7 times.
Submitted in what sense?
So what we were trying to get people to do was sign their school up to receive anti-bias and anti-racism training for the teachers.
Yeah.
So you know, we had either teachers going into Lush, or parents going into Lush, or school kids going into Lush, you know, seeing the QR code that was up and seeing, okay, well, you can get someone to come out to your you can get someone from Black and Irish to reach out to your school and, you know, come out and sit with your teachers and help them. So you know, we had loads of people sign up to, I don't know the exact number, but what I do know that was that it was, you know, schools all over the country.
I was going to ask, that's something that I'm quite concerned about, or like want to know more about, because a lot of what we see is Black and Irish in Dublin. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So it's like, with regards to the school, so it wasn't just Dublin schools that were, it was everywhere. That's
all over Ireland, yeah. So.
And how is that then executed once someone signs up or whatever? Like, how were you able to like carry on with that?
Yeah, so we're able to reach out to the school.
Okay.
And say, look, here's what we can do. We can come in and, you know, talk to the students, or we can come in and run a workshop with the teachers. Like, we have a very fantastic member of the Black and Irish team who is a school teacher.
Yeah.
You know, and is able to understand the training that teachers get, and we know that it's not enough. We also ran you know, a lot of surveys of teachers. You know, some of the statistics that we were getting from that was really worrying in terms of teachers being able to spot racism in their class. Like, I think it was 1 in 15 teachers were seeing another teacher engage in what they thought was racist behaviour. So that's really worrying. Like, you know, I think it ended up being 15%, not 1 in 15. So you know, these are things that we need to work on, because that's affecting Black and mixed race school kids in schools around Ireland. So that's one way that we're working with schools, either going in and talking to the students, or going in and running workshops with teachers. And we're also working with Black inclusive curriculum in order to get the schools curriculum more up to date, I suppose is the word. Make it more inclusive, have it you know, a lot more education around Black history on it.
I think unfortunately in Ireland, and it's hard because I'm all up for change and I love the activism stuff and I'm all guns blazing, let's go. But I think sometimes you need to be a tad bit realistic, not in the sense that you're shooting yourself short, but you need to understand the context of where you're working in, right? And the Irish curriculum in itself is outdated.
Yeah.
Right? A lot of things in Ireland are outdated, even for white Irish people that live in the country, like young white Irish people. And I think a lot of the times, sometimes that's a challenge with Ireland, where you're trying to make a change in this, but the whole thing needs to change as well.
Oh, absolutely, yeah.
And you see, and I think unfortunately, this is where white people can be extremely annoying, where they see one person making change or trying to make change, and they're like, what about us? What about this? What about that? And it's like, that's valid. That's definitely valid. But I'm not I'm not a white whatever in a different category. Like, this is what I am, and these are the things that I can relate to, and these are the problems that I see in my community. So we're doing this to do this. So if you have that, come along and we can change this whole thing as well. And it's like, I think a lot of people are threatened that, like, they think that Irishness is being changed or tainted, but Irishness is not Irishness. Like, it's not what they think it is anymore. Like, and whoever they are, like, even young people in Ireland are seeing that Ireland is not up to speed for them at times. You know what I mean?
Oh, yeah.
And I think that that's another barrier to things, because it's not like we live in a society that's willing to change in the first place for anything. let alone now the minority.
Yeah,
you know?
Absolutely. And it's important that, you know, everyone that wants to see change works on it. That earlier point that you mentioned is really important, because when we were starting Black and Irish, or like when we're doing different initiatives, such as like the big awards, it was featured across a number of you know, social media sites, and it got a good bit of publicity. But the negative press off of that like I and Black and Irish got was it was actually, you know, funny at times, but it was, you know, astonishing that people would say, what about the Polish and Irish awards, or what about the such and such award, what about X group and Irish awards? I'm like, no one's stopping any of these groups from doing what they want to do.
Like it's relevant. Those things are whatever problems you're going to are 100. I'm not Polish. I don't know. I can't help you. Like
100%.
And if I became and if we decided, okay, let's do a
Polish Irish awards,
you know what I mean? How ridiculous would it be? Because I can't. Just like we don't. That's the same thing as white savior mentality. It's the same thing as if a random white person, a random person that's not of this community comes and is like, oh, I understand your struggle, let me help you out. How can you do that? How do you understand my struggle? Like, yes, you may be able to get it objectively, but you will never be able to understand how it feels under my skin. Like, you know what I mean?
Exactly.
So it's really annoying when people say that, because it's like, I can't help you, bro. Like, you know what I mean?
Yeah, no, it's shocking. But yeah, that is it. Like, I think what people need to understand is that if a community is working to, or if people in the community are helping to better their own community, don't give them crap over that. Like don't start, you know, putting fingers saying, oh well, you're not doing enough for this other community. I'm not working for other communities. Do you know what I mean? Me and my team are working to, you know, stop ISIS, to try and eradicate racism from Ireland, to try and build a more cohesive Black Irish community, and to better integrate the Black and Irish community into wider Irish society. So that we can live our lives without having to worry about, you know, being a statistic that we're less likely to get access to services, or you know, we're more likely to experience racism when we're going here or there or whatever. So it's important that people just, like, you know, if they want things to change in their own community, go and work on it. Go and change it. You know, like, stop bothering me and our team for.
Don't chat to me, fam. You heard Leon straight here. Leon, Black and Irish, don't chat to us. But I think that's really interesting. And like, even prior to this, like I even mentioned to you, like, for example, where you said it was a Facebook page or Instagram page, right? It is very different to the Black and Irish that we see today. And I think I've seen people on Twitter go off and just be like, okay, what is Black and Irish? What do they do? Why are they here? What's the point of telling our stories and all of these things? And although it did not come from a great place and was very poorly worded, I think the concern is fair. And I think especially if it's an organization that's going to, represent a large community of people that are not a monolith. There we go. They're not a monolith. I think it is very important for an organization like that to be very open about what they stand for and what they are, because the Black and Irish that I saw that started off whatever, it was very much straight. It looked like activism, like, do you know what I mean? Like very overt activism. Do you know what I mean? Unfortunately, Black and Irish is the first of its kind in Ireland, so the expectation on the organisation to do a lot is there. But I think it's also important to say, this is what Black and Irish is. In the same breath, this is what Black and Irish isn't. And I think, like, it's very, because of the time it started, it's very comparable to Black Lives Matter. Do you know what I mean? Because Black Lives Matter movement and Black Lives Matter organisation are two different things. Do you know what I mean? I'm sure you guys are part of the Black Lives Matter movement because you believe that Black lives.
Of course.
Exactly. But in the sense that you support Black Lives Matter as an organisation in America is a completely different thing.
Of course,
Do you know what I mean? And I think it's very important to state that, because people don't tend, like,
differentiate the two.
Exactly. But in that same breath, I think it's also important for Black and Irish to be, this is what we are. Do you get me? Like, we see, like, you mentioned the six areas. Like, I know for a fact that you've explained, like, what you're doing, and well, I'm guessing it wasn't just in February, the anti-biases and stuff, or is it continuing?
Yeah, anti-bias, anti-racism, that's probably going to be over the next 4 or 5 years.
Exactly. So that's one of the things that's going.
Yeah.
The political stuff, I know you submitted something into the Oireachtas.
Yeah, it makes submissions to the Oireachtas, yeah.
Exactly.
For the Inclusive Family group, it's chaired by the Ceann Comhairle, and basically they're looking at making the Oireachtas more inclusive and family friendly. Is the name of it. So like we would make submissions to that. We would also do a lot of work with sitting down with politicians and talking to them about some of the issues that need to change.
Yeah.
So we, for example, met with the Minister for Justice and spoke about how we need hate crime legislation, how there are provisions and stuff like that. I think one thing that I first of all, I absolutely understand people want to see transparency, and that's something that I absolutely want to give to the community and absolutely will. Getting everything out that we're doing is something that we're not necessarily the best at. So that is something that I'm committed to improving on. But we would work. We do a lot of work across different areas. So that's just some of the stuff that we're doing with politics in terms of business. We do a number of business talks. Like we do a number of sessions with businesses in terms of like understanding, diversity, understanding inclusion, how important it is to diversify your workforce, and to make sure that you're not just hiring the same person over and over again, that you're bringing other communities into your workspace to make it more inclusive, and also like there's studies that show that your business will thrive.
I was going to say the importance of diversity, right? Yeah,
absolutely. So that's what we're doing there. Obviously then in terms of media, like we would work with we've worked with RTE in terms of getting the stories out there. Like one thing that we want to improve on with media is building up representation and making sure that more Black and mixed race voices are being heard across our multiple channels out there. So we've got various things going on there, and then obviously then in terms of entertainment, we know how creative the Black and mixed race community is. We want to make sure that they're being listened to, and that their arts are getting out there, and that they have the opportunity to be creative and be listened to. So those would be some of the things that we do across multiple areas. Some things that we don't do. I mean, there's a lot of questions around some of the public services that are out there, such as different government organisations, whether that's TUSLA or the penal service or the prison system. Those areas that we haven't worked in, those areas that absolutely we could work in. Making sure that they're inclusive. Making sure not that they're not inclusive, but making sure that they're not racist.
Making sure the prison system is inclusive. I think it's very inclusive. But Black people.
Yeah, absolutely. So, those are some of the things that we don't work on, and
I think it's important to say don't work on yet, because I've hung out with
definitely will eventually.
I've hung out with you like a decent amount of times, and like I think online people think that I'm like this happy-go-lucky person, whatever, and I am. I love people, positivity, all of that, but I'm not going to stand with someone. I'm not going to promote something that I don't believe in. And that's just me to a T. I'm never going to bring someone on this that I don't feel has a good heart, and I think you do have a good heart in what you're doing. One, I think it's important for people to remember that it has been 2 years. Do you know what I mean? And it is still quite a young amount of people who are running it. I think the biggest thing, and you explaining everything you've told me puts your work into context for me. Do you know what I mean? And like you said, I think for yourselves, it would be great to have, not saying all lads are doing this today, by the way, but having access for the regular community to see these things, because yes, you're working with businesses, yes, you're working with education, yes, and people will indirectly be affected by these, in a positive manner. I think it's hard when the community don't see what you're doing hands-on. And I think that's where people are going to be like, what is Black and Irish and why are you doing this? Because I think the entertainment and the media side, because of the way social media works, we see that the most.
It's out there,
Did you get me?
Yeah.
So it seems like events, awards, festivals and stuff, but we don't see the education, we don't see the business. Like I see Eric posting the stuff about the politics, which is great, but because yous don't tell us these things, and unfortunately as humans we want the easiest access to it.
Right.
Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, no, I understand that.
As someone who values the work that you do, and like I chat to you the whole time, do you know what I mean? I would not bring you on here to come from a bad place.
Yeah.
I think for your own good, I think it's important for other people to see these things, because if someone is asking, what is it for? Is it just people putting their name? They clearly don't know that you're doing these things, especially if you're doing these things.
Of course.
If you're doing these things and you're putting funds to good use and you're actually helping the community in a certain manner, I think it's important that people know that, because if they don't see it, they don't know it.
Okay, yeah, no,
do you know what I mean?
That's right. Yeah.
And if this is the community that you're meant to be standing for or being there for, they may not feel heard because they are not in those rooms anyway. Do you know what I mean? Yeah. And I think for yourselves, I feel like it would feel also very draining when people keep asking these questions and you're like, yo, we do this, this, and this, but they also don't know. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, no, that's fair, and that's absolutely something that we can improve on.
Sorry, I didn't want to make it like a you need to do this.
If there's like, you won't meet anyone who's more open to critique than me. I want to do things properly. I want to do things right. I don't only want to do things right. I want to do things very well.
Yeah.
You know, and if we're going to be doing this work, I do want the Black and mixed race community to have faith in us and to trust us.
Yeah.
You know, so if there are things that we can do, absolutely.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? I'm more than happy to do them. That's no problem at all. So look, we can definitely work on that. I do want to open up Black and Irish more for people to be able to input into you know what we're doing, make suggestions, ask questions. That's no problem. So I don't know whether it's like we could do that through like a forum style or like even like if I would be happy more than like even once a month to jump onto an open forum. Yeah. You know, and just be like, right,
lay it on me.
What's happening? Because I think you're right. It is important that we're transparent, especially with what's happening with the Black Lives Matter
organization. Exactly, and I was going to say, I don't think it's a fault of your own, but I think because we've seen people misuse funds and names and stuff, I think people are very skeptical of what they believe in and who they believe in.
Of course, that's fair. So look, I can definitely work on that. That's not an issue. And if anyone wants to input or have their say, you know, of course, I am one of the most approachable people on the planet. Yeah. Like if you want to message me on Instagram or DM me or even just walk up to me in the street if you see me and ask, hey you,
what's going on with Black Lives?
I'm not going to lie. If when people approach me in an aggressive manner, I'm not receptive to that. Do you know what I mean? Because no one should have to be. Yeah. But
obviously, like critical evaluation, like showing, like I think, like you said, it's how do you want to add to this? Because I think it's different, and I think I'm gonna put like a star there, because I think you've just opened yourself to a lot of people coming at you. I think it's very important that if you want something to be better and you have like an actual way that you want to add to it, I think that's different than just airing out your grievances. You know what I mean? I think those are two very different things. Like if you're unhappy about something for whatever, cool, it's fine, but that may not be Black and Irish's place. Do you get me? Yeah. And that's why I think it's important to say this is what we do and this is what we don't do. Yeah. Okay. Because there's no other Black or mixed race organization in Ireland or as large as you doing what you do. So I think if people think that you're something that you're not, people might come to you for things that you're. Do you know what I mean? Yeah. And that's not what you have the capacity for. That's not what your role is in the community. So knowing your role and us knowing your role, I think that's very important. I think that's a way for the community to work better with Black and Irish, and I think it's also for you to be more comfortable in the work that you're doing and also feel appreciation for the things you do, because I know that you work tirelessly for a lot of things. Do you know what I mean? On a lighter subject, the Horticulture Festival, I think we'll end it here. I was really excited to see that. Mainly as someone who's in the creative scene or whatever, creative lady. I think it's like really cool to see. And how did you come about with that? Like, like, where did that come from, that concept?
Yeah, well, like, it came from a space where we saw a number of, like, Black and mixed race creatives speaking about their work and how it's not appreciated as much as it really should be.
Yeah.
You know, of course, we're seeing a bit more of it now where, you know, some of the bigger names are starting to be platformed at festivals, and that's fantastic. But we have a whole community of creators who are doing amazing work and putting out really impressive pieces. So we wanted to see that celebrated, and we said that we were doing it for the culture. So we wanted to put together like a one-day festival where creatives can, you know, go and show their work on a main stage. You know, so now of course we've had to push it back due to some issues with the venue staying on as a vaccination centre. The spaces that we were going to use are no longer there, so we're moving it to another space. We're still in conversations with a few spaces, so I'm not going to say.
Don't worry, exclusive.
But what we do have is a very talented pool of creatives who are going to put on an amazing show. And I'm buzzing to see some of them, like people like I was about to name someone who hasn't been.
Yeah, I was going to say. You should remember who's on the page.
Yeah, so like, you know, so like in the first lineup, like we've got people like Plantain Pappy, who has just gone from strength to strength, is putting out more and more, you know, amazing content. Of course, we've got some old heads on there, like the likes of Hairsquade, who, you know, I feel like Hairsquade reached amazing heights. I definitely feel like those lads needed that, like, you know, support from the community, and I'm really hoping that you know, we can continue to get that back, you know, because they're very talented. Oh yeah, like, they're very, very talented.
I missed their concert right before lockdown. I'm still vexed about it.
Yeah. You know, we've Abby Kilabally, you know, again, I think that's a generational talent.
Yeah.
Like, you're not going to see that again, do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, for another 20, 50 years. So, you
Wayne
know,
Rooney and so on.
Yeah, we have these people, you know, alive and with us today, do you know what I mean, who are putting out creative music in our time of, like, growing and stuff like that, and we should absolutely celebrate it, because it enriches our lives, do you know what I mean? It really does. So, you know, we will be dropping the second lineup, I'd say, in the next, let's say, 3 weeks, and by then we more than likely will be in a position to announce the new venue. And like we're really excited. It's good. More than likely gonna go ahead in the middle of August. So yeah, I'm buzzing for it.
Really that's great. And I mean, we saw good things from the Black and Irish Awards, which were, to me, just very emotional, because I've been on that, like, I was on that wave before I moved to Dublin, and it's something that I've never gotten the chance to experience, being in a room with a bunch of talented Black people. Like, do you know what I mean? Like, I think it's very rarely that a lot of us are in those spaces. So to me, I think, like, big well done to all of you and Fiona for getting that done.
I woke up that morning with COVID.
Oh man.
The morning of the awards.
Oh, should you? Yeah, you were there.
I was there. I'm not even gonna lie. I cried all day. I was so upset. I was heartbroken. Like, you know, all that work, and I wouldn't mind. Like, we pulled that together relatively quickly. Like, that wasn't something that we were planning for a few months. Now, for this year's one, we have a number of months of planning ahead of us. So it's going to be incredible. I definitely won't have COVID this time. But you know, from what we heard. From what I heard, it was incredible. And also, one of the best things from that is that, like, it got a shed load of media attention. Like, RT ran it, Irish Times ran it.
Next morning there was at least 3 papers about it.
Definitely, do you know what I mean? So that shows that, you know, people pay attention to this stuff. You know, and if we're going to build up our community, build up the creators in our community, they need to be in traditional media. They need to be on our screens. They need to be on our radios and stuff like that. And hopefully this will help them get more of that.
Yeah. That's great. Well, Leon, thanks for coming. And I really appreciate your honesty. And obviously the start, it wasn't planned that we were actually going to talk about Leon, but the vulnerability and understanding your background. I think it's important, like, unfortunately, you're in the public eye or whatever, but people have questions in it, and and it's best to lay it out there for yourselves, especially when you're not doing dodgy shit in it. Like, so you know, you like, especially like, there's nothing worse than being accused of something or people feeling a certain way when you're trying to do your best. Do you know what I mean? Yeah. I think that's really important. I really appreciate the work that you guys do. In everything. I think it's something that I wanted to, like, when I saw it, I was like, I wanted to do this for so long, but I'm like, I live in Waterford, so I'm like, so I mean, like, I've never been around a lot of people who are like-minded in that sense, and I think it's really cool to see that, and like, hopefully you continue to grow in capacity, and you're able to reach out in, like, from deeper in the community to higher in society as well. So I think it's important for, even if it's not for other organizations to come in, for just a community of people to grow and helping each other. Absolutely. You know what I mean? I think it's really important that that's there, and hopefully just goes from strength to strength. So yeah.
Brilliant. Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
Thanks for having me on.
Great. Well, all right. Bye guys. See you again.